and we are just in time for our next segment. And we have Mr. Shawn Maile, who is a certified HR professional with over 10 years experience working in various industries in Antigua and Barbuda and further afield. He holds a BS in psychology and a postgraduate degree and certification in HR management. Currently he serves as the Labor Relations Officer for the Antigua and Barbuda Employers Federation, where he interacts with business owners, managers, union officials, and other industrial relation practitioners on a daily basis. Now, he has an extensive resume, but I'm going to fast forward down to his mantra, his life mantra, which I actually liked because it brought to my attention. He said his life mantra is a simple one: let's move the world. I repeat, let's move the world. Now, he also has he has a company that specializes in nature hikes, and it offers visitors to Antigua an up-close and personal hiking experience. Now, as pathfinders and uniform members of the Tacuma district, I know this is a person that if we had to meet him face-to-face, we would all very much be able to understand that particular experience, hiking. Okay, it's not new to us. So I don't want to say too much more. I want to bring Mr. Maile on, and I want you to join me in giving him a warm Tacuma welcome. Mr. Maile.
All right, thank you so much, Karina. That definitely sounds like we're planning a hiking trip to Antigua and Barbuda. I would be happy to show the Tacuma district a lot of the trails on the island, so we could definitely make it happen. How does that sound? Can I get a round of applause in the chat? I'm not saying I will sponsor the trip, let's be clear, but I'm saying if you all come, we can make it happen. All right. If you get here, I will take you hiking.
Oh, I'm taking a couple hands. Okay.
All right. Good stuff. So thank you. Let me see if I can get my share screen up and going. I am not seeing my PowerPoint. Do I need to be made a co-host or something of the sort so I can do a share screen? I also should have sent my presentation to Miss Beckles, but I did not.
Make you a co-host. You're currently a co-host, so you should be able
to
share.
Okay, great. So let's try this again. Advanced. All right, I do have, give me 1 second. All right, let's go back to Zoom. For some reason, I'm not seeing open sys. Okay, I apologize. I will tell you that my normal computer crashed sometime last month, and I had to get a brand new one, which I just got in less than a week, and it is not fully set up as yet. All right, so I'm just having a bit of a challenge to navigate to how to get certain things set up. All right, give me 1 second, folks. I'm just going to email my presentation to Miss Beckers, because I don't think I have the time now to figure this out.
Okay, no problem. So, Mr. Maile, do you want to tell us a little bit about Antigua while we're waiting? I'm not hearing you.
Sure, that's something I could do easily, Karina. What Karina was mentioning in terms of my love for the outdoors, my colleague and I, or my sister and I, we run a hiking company by the name of Trek Tours. We've been in business for 7 years now, and we have been taking persons on different hikes all around Antigua. I don't want to say Antigua and Barbuda because, like Trinidad and Tobago, it is two separate islands. But we operate directly from Antigua, and we take persons to a number of hikes. The most prolific one being to the top of Antigua, which is Buggy Peak, also known as Mount Obama. It's a bit of a politics with the name, but it is 1,300 feet above sea level. And I was there on Thursday because we had a holiday. And I also went to another hike this morning, Signal Hill. And from both vantage points, you get a 360-degree view of Antigua. On a clear day, you can see as far as Montserrat, you can see Guadeloupe, you can see St. Kitts and Nevis, and maybe even Saba as well, if it's really clear. And the whole premise behind starting Trek Tours was that we wanted persons who were coming to the island to see more than just what you would see from a bus window if you went on a regular bus tour. And so we wanted to give persons an up close and personal view of the island. And that is where Trek Tours began. But even without you seeing my presentation, I can just, begin anyway while I wait for it to come up on screen so you can see the visual. And I will start by putting a disclaimer again for the issues that I was having due to my PC not working, and beginning with, the 5 Ps in terms of preparing for interviews. And before we even get to that, can I see in the chat how many persons have a job, are looking for a job, want to change jobs, want another job? Let me see in the chat. If you're employed, unemployed, you don't need to be, ashamed about it. It's just, I just want to get a sense of, who I'm talking to here. So in the chat, okay, so Shelly, and I think I remember Shelly from the last session. I was trying to figure out, I know this name, Shelly Fullerton. All right, so Zui is looking for another job. Shelly is employed. Anyone else currently seeking? Selena Jofield. All right, that's a good thing. Anyone else? I see 3 responses, but I know we got like 13 other people. All right, Jemima is looking for a job. Employed, looking for another one. Okay, so I get a sense of where we should be heading this afternoon. Finally, a student soaking up knowledge. All right, Jared Pierre, you will be soaking for the rest of your life, Jared. Let's just put it that way. You will never have enough knowledge by which to base things off of. All right, so I'm going to be a bit of a hypocrite and tell you that the 5 Ps is that, and if you've heard this before, just drop a 1 in the chat if you have. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Proper planning prevents poor performance. Drop a 1 in the chat if you've heard that before. If you haven't, that's fine. Okay, Renee has heard it before. Asha has heard it before. Karina has heard it before. So many persons have heard it before. And before I even ask, if you were, and I'll ask you to not necessarily prevent, but yeah, that's true. But hopefully 9 times out of 10, it does prevent poor performance. If you got a call today, this afternoon, got an email right now that you have to attend an interview tomorrow morning, what's the first thing you would do? If you want to unmute your mic, you can let me know, or if you just want to comment in the chat. If you got a email now, it is 3:11 on a Sunday afternoon. All right. If you got an email right now saying that you have a job interview tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, what's the first thing that you would do? Anybody? Ask myself, what am I going to wear? And I know the next person coming up is going to handle how to dress for success. So Renee said, choose an outfit, gather my certificates. And Karina said, ask myself, what am I going to wear? All right. And that is true, because you want to definitely dress for success. Now, I would even say before you figure out what you're going to wear, all right, gather documents with big questions. The first question you have to ask yourself is, do you really want this job? Like, do you want to work at the company that is interviewing you? And it sounds odd in the sense that you would have applied, but let's say you applied 2 weeks ago, and then now it's 2 weeks later. A lot can change in 2 weeks. Your mindset, maybe you applied a month ago, and they're now getting back to you. The first thing you want to do is like, do I really want to work at this company? Is this somewhere I could see myself spending the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Like, do I really want to work at this job? And the reason I say that, because as HR professionals, persons can self-select out of the process at any time, right? You can self-select out of the process. And I say that because if you decide you don't want to take the interview because you no longer feel like you would be a good fit for the company, the best time to say it is now, because then you're saving yourself and the interviewee, a lot of time and effort and energy. Because let's say you applied and then, you ran into somebody who works at the company and you find out, okay, how much are they really paying? You find out how much they're paying, you find out what the hours are, and you realize, I don't want to work there, or their company culture doesn't seem to mesh with, what I stand for as an individual. So, let me just say, you know what, it's fine, it's good. I don't want to work at this company. Thank you for the opportunity to interview, but I have decided to, withdraw from the process. Right? We could skip to that slide, Larissa. All right, and again, I know it sounds odd, but then somebody said it as well. The next thing to do from there is research. And to be honest, unless you really are a financial auditor, like you crunch numbers for a living, or a private investigator, or a forensic accountant or something, you're really not going to uncover anything about the company that is not, known to the general public, right? What you're going to be doing is just looking for information just to support maybe some ideas that you already, knew about the company. And where do you get this information? The company website, of course, hoping that they have one, hoping that in 2021, all companies have a website or some sort of social media presence. Maybe they've been mentioned in the newspaper. If you know a current employee, a past employee. So, those are kind of like the first 5 sources of information. And I'm pretty sure persons here, have, used any one of these resources before in terms of trying to figure out, what do I need to know about this company, right? And we can move on to the next slide. And it's pretty simple. What you're looking for, I've kind of condensed it. And again, I would make another plug here. There might be some typos in my PowerPoint. Again, my apologies, right? The 5 W's. Who runs the company? What business are they in? Why are they in business? Where are they likely to be 5 years from now? When did they start this business? And how do they treat their employees? Now, based on what we have here, I want to get a sense from the audience. Like, what do you think is the most interesting question for you, or the most important question for you? Is it who runs the company? Does it make a difference for you if it's a company that is run by a male CEO versus a female CEO? Does it matter what business are they in? Are they selling petrochemicals? Are they selling chemicals? Is it a hardware store? Do you want to work for one versus the other type of company? All right. So Karina says, how do they treat the employees? Why are they in business? Is it a not profit? Is it a non-profit organization, or is it a for-profit organization? Right? Is it a limited liability company? Is it a sole tradership? Is it a partnership? You know, that's another question, right? And why are they in business? You know, and it's for a lot of people now. You know, the why of something is a big thing. Like people ask, you know, what's your why? What's your purpose? You know, can you get that from an organization by just looking at their social media, right? As a Christian, I want to know, what business are they in? Great. All right. Are they likely to be in business 5 years from now? Right? Even in today's day and age, that's a very important question, because if it's one thing COVID has shown us, that no business is above being affected by anything, especially something as serious as a global pandemic. You know, all businesses are feeling the crunch from COVID. Like right now in Antigua and Barbuda, you know, bars and restaurants are back on restrictions now to just only take out only food. Cinemas are closed. You know, thankfully, you know, grooming services are still open, but gyms are closed. So, you know, not every business will be able to sustain the shocks of this pandemic long term. So if you're taking a job now, is it likely that this company is going to be here 5 years from now? You know, scrolling through social media sometime last week, I saw a post that said there's I think a restaurant in Alabama or somewhere that was literally saying, we will hire anybody right now. Just come. Just once you show up, you have a job. Once you walk through those doors and you say, before you even say you're looking for work, we will hire you. Right? Because I guess, you know, their usual workforce is, you know, probably not available, whether it is that they have contracted the virus or they're sick or they had to move back home to where they, whatever the case is, you know, like they're literally saying, we will hire anybody. Like, we don't care. We just need someone to probably cook, maybe not to cook the food, but we would just need some, once you can get the food to the table safely, we will hire you. Right? Another question is, you know, when are they in business? How many persons would take a job working for a company that started operating last Monday? Right? Again, comment in the chat, 1 if yes, not if, 0 if no. Would you take a job at a business that has been operating for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months? Okay, Shelly said she did. So Shelly probably came in at the ground level at a startup. Hope things are working great for it. Asha says, no, it's a bit too risky for Asha, right? And oh, Shelly said she started. Okay, so it sounded like Shelly started her own business and employed herself. Good for you, Shelly. All right, we wish you continued success. I think I remember that story. All right, and the other question is, how do they treat their employees? You know, do people that you talk to say, listen, if you're here for a paycheck, come get the money and then just go home? Or do the employees say, hey, yes, we would love to have you. You would love working here. The boss is so nice. The employees are so nice. You know, we do so much things on a day-to-day basis as a staff. We really get along. You know, we really want to see, you know, the process working smoothly. We're here for the customers, you know. Or do you see any red flags? You know, like, you really have to, you know, think about these things, because you're spending 8 hours rubbing shoulders with people. If you get to be in an office right now, or even if not, you're working remotely, if that's a thing in the industry that you're going to be working in, you still have to report to someone. You still have to give a report as to what you've done with the time that they're going to be paying you for, right? So I think it was some, I'm just going to scroll to see who had said it. How do they treat the employees? So for Karina, that's a big ticket item. How do they treat their employees? All right, so moving on, after you've done your research, what next? So this is pre-interview day. So imagine you had an interview tomorrow at 9 a.m. Today, this is what we'd be doing. We'd be washing, ironing, making sure your clothes are clean, presentable. And you also want to check for a proper fit, right? You definitely want to make sure that your stuff fits, right? I can't emphasize this enough. And I think this goes for both men and women. I'm gonna be honest, the shirt I'm wearing, I like it, I love it. but I would not wear this to a job interview because it looks good right now from here up. You know, with the COVID-15, you don't want to see what's happening from here going down. But it looks nice for the frame that it fits in. But I wouldn't walk out the door in this shirt because I know, you know, yeah, moving right along. Cleanliness. You also want to make sure your stuff is clean. You don't want to be wearing a shirt that has like a spot on the collar because, you know, you go into the interview and then you're going to be sitting there with like a coffee stain on your collar. And the interviewer is going to be like, what is that? Is that blood? Is it dirt? Is that makeup? How did she get makeup on her collar? And then next thing you're answering a question and then they're just looking at you blank like, oh, all right. So then the next question, and then, you know, you realize that it's not flowing because, you know, they're distracted. Or maybe you sprayed perfume and now there's a big yellow stain here and a big yellow stain here. And then the interviewer might be thinking, oh, it looks like a smiley face is on their shirt. Like, what's happening here? Again, they're distracted, right? Coordination, you know, guys, I guess in my time, you know, early 2000s, we could probably get away with wearing, you know, plaid and stripes or whatever. But now, you know, and everybody's about that Instagram life. You want to make sure your outfit coordinates in terms of color, in terms of patterns, in terms of textures. Again, I'm not that into fashion, but I'm pretty sure you could go down whatever rabbit holes on YouTube or Instagram and figure out, you know, what works. And to keep it really simple, black pants or blue pants, white shirt, and a tie. You can't get any simpler than that. Again, if you don't have those things, get someone to give you an opinion as to, hey, you know, does this work for an interview? And I think I might say here, not everything that works for church might work for an interview because I know, you know, we are a SDA group here. So, you know, you might want to be like, you know, pimping on a Saturday, but that doesn't really translate well to Monday morning, 9 o'clock. So you might have to tailor a couple of things, maybe tone down some colors, get, you know, some things in there neutral, and also functionality. There's no point in trying to step out in 9-inch stilettos if you've never done it before. Interview day is not the day to figure out how to walk in heels. Same for guys. Interview day is not the day to try to figure out how to tie a tie. You kind of want to have this down packed before. If it is that you need someone to tie it the day before, so you can just slip it over your head, put it on, good, right? And you definitely want to do a head to toe assessment. And I'll just run this through because I know the person coming up is going to touch on it. You want to make sure your hair is good. Does that mean for guys, you need to get a cut? Ladies, do you need a wash style? Do you need to remove color because, you know, it was summer and you were having a hot girl summer, so you put a streak in? Same thing for the guys. And now it's coming on to September. You have an interview and you're like, how do I get this out of my hair? Can I get this out of my hair for tomorrow morning or in 2 days? Face, clean. You know, are we doing makeup, no makeup? You know, teeth, I guess it's a given, you know, brushed and clean. Shoes, clean, I guess functional fit. You know, boat shoes might not go for Monday morning interview, especially if you're maybe interviewing for a job teller, a bank teller or something. They might want to see something more Oxfordy, you know, more polished. Again, guys and ladies, you know, belts, you want to keep it, you know, simple. Does it match your outfit? I've had, and I could sell them out because, you know, they're family, and they know better now, but, you know, at the time they didn't know better. You know, I've had younger cousins like, hey, I have a job interview tomorrow. Can I borrow a belt? And I'm like, dude, how do you not have a black belt? You know, how do you not have a brown belt? How do you not have a belt that is fit for an interview? Again, you know, being young and being just caught up with just young people things, you know, you might not think about these things. You just want the belt that is, you know, fits your going out attire. Socks, you might not want to wear, you know, your Star Wars socks to the interview unless, you know, it will be really comforting for you. And then you might, you know, bump into someone who's interviewing you that says, you know what, may the force be with you. And you're like, you know what, this guy gets it. You know, he's a fan, you know, he's a fan of the Empire. We're all good here, you know, unless it's something that would break the ice, but definitely, not something that is gonna raise an eyebrow like, what is that? Like someone gave me a pair of socks as an office exchange gift that has cannabis leaves on it. I don't think I've ever worn it to work. I don't think I've ever worn it, but I have it. I would not wear it to a job interview because it really sends the wrong message. Fingernails clipped clean. I'm a biter, trying to get out of it. So, I would really like a 48-hour notice if I'm going on an interview so I could, stop biting and keep everything feng shui. Perfume, mild. I say mild because you don't want your fragrance to walk into the room before you, not knowing if the person you're going into the room to be interviewed by has severe allergies to strong fragrances, right? Again, these things seem simple, but when you put them in context, they might sound funny. I see a lot of laughter in the chat, and I'm happy that you're enthused by it because that was my intention. To let you think about it in a very practical, but at the same time, humorous sense. The orange watch that you have to wear with the orange shirt at church might not be the watch that you want to wear to your job interview. If it's not black or brown or silver or something really plain or monotone, then, forget it. Don't even wear one. If you can't find something that fits into your outfit, then just forget about it, And you also want to plan your transportation. I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm talking to people in Trinidad. I don't know if I have anyone on here who's not from Trinidad and Tobago. If you are, drop your location in the chat. We'd love to know where you're from. And so plan your transportation. I did university at University of the Southern Caribbean, so I know what traveling in Trinidad is like. How are you going to get there? Are you taking a maxi, a taxi, a maxi, a car? Is it a family or a friend? The most important thing when it comes to transportation is that you have a system that is reliable, right? If you know you live in Arima and you need to get to Port of Spain, again, yes, arriving hot and sweaty is not a plan. So that might mean you have to leave an hour earlier. It might mean that, hey, you have to travel in a plain white t-shirt and you have your shirt preserved in a bag or something, with a hanger, and that maybe there's a family member that works close by that you can go and, change last minute in their office, just so that you arrive looking crisp and cool and clean. Like, you really have to put a lot of thought in this, especially if it's something that you really want. This might be that first impression that you give might be the make or break deal. So you definitely want to make sure that you put a little thought into how you're going to get there and what you're going to look like when you get there. All right. Next slide. So that's pre-interview day. And I think my next slide talks about, go back one. All right. So day or night before the interview. You want to make sure your clothes are ready and safe. You want to make sure you do any last minute review of the notes. And you definitely want to get at least 8 hours of sleep. You don't want to wake up looking with bloodshot red eyes. I was up 6 o'clock this morning hiking, took a nap at like 2 o'clock. Set multiple alarms and make sure your phone is on loud. Make sure it's everything. Don't put it on airplane mode, because it might be a case where you're up worried about the interview, and then as soon as you fall asleep, you fall into the deepest sleep of your life and you don't hear your alarm go off. Have a friend, say that they're going to call you, at least the time that you're supposed to be up, just to check on you. So at least if you don't hear the phone alarming, at least you'll hear it when they're calling you 10 times. Reconfirm with the person who is taking you to the interview, hey, you're going to pick me up at 6 o'clock, right? Like, I just want to make sure. And it's 6 a.m., right? 6 a.m., not 6 p.m. And pray. I know that should have been at the top of the list, but, say a silent prayer like, hey, Lord, I really need this job. I'm tired of being home. I have this degree that you paved the way for me to get. I need to get my foot in a door. If this is the door for me, take it off the hinges and just let me just fly through it easily, right? Have a mock interview. Talk to some people, close family or friends. Have them, shoot a couple of questions to you, see how you handle them. just so that, you know, you don't, if you've never, is there anyone here who's never been on an interview before? Never, ever, ever. Yes, Y for yes, N for no in the chat. Let me know if you've never been on an interview before, any kind of interview. Oh, wow. Nathaniel, who's a who runs Genuistic Photographs. He says in a school play, he's been interviewed. So he's never been on an actual interview. So Nathaniel, you would definitely want to do a couple of dry runs with someone in your close family or friend circle, just so that you get the sense of what it's like to have questions coming after you. Because if you walk into that room and there's like 5 or 6 people to be interviewed, best believe the interviewer knows, like, all right, we got 15 minutes. They might not tell you this, but they're going to be constantly looking at their watch like, we got 15 minutes. All right, so I need to get these questions off. I need to get your answers. I need to score them, and I need to get on to the next person. All right. Visualizing and rehearsing. I don't know if anyone here is a fan of mindfulness, meditation, but, you know, sit and visualize your entire day. From the time you wake up, what are you going to do? What are you going to eat? What are you going to wear, etc.? How are you going to get to where you're going? What the interview is going to be like? What frame of mind are you going to be like? You know, visualize it, rehearse it, answer the questions out loud so you can hear yourself. Yes, I can tell you about a time when I was working, and yes, I can give you, you know, some real life examples of this, you know, so that you can hear yourself how you would sound. Record yourself. If you have no one to do it with, pick up your phone, record yourself, and watch back the videos. All right. You might want to get some exercise in the day before, you know, go for a run, a walk, exercise, swim, hike. I know there are restrictions in what you can do right now in Trinidad and Tobago, but, you know, get some kind of activity going, get the blood flowing so that you can be 100% on the ball. And you also want to prepare interview questions. You don't want to go in there and they ask, do you have any questions for us? And you say, no, I'm good. I don't have anything to ask. That's a bad sign. That's a horrible sign. That means that I answered all the questions that you could have asked, and there's nothing original that you thought about. All right. So you definitely want to prepare some questions. All right. on to interview day. Right. So Shelly is the boss. All right. Arrive 15 to 13 minutes early, right? Because you want to show that, you know, you're punctual. You want to be cool, calm, and confident. So whoever I know, well, for me, and I think for most people, you have alter egos. You don't always feel like yourself, but you also want to give yourself, you know, pep talks all the time. Like, yeah, Shawn, we can do this. You know, this is easy. You know, like, this is a walk in the park. Remember that time when we did that interview and we got this job or we got this gig? We could do this. Not a problem. Soft, right? Give yourself those pep talks so that, you know that, hey, on the inside, you feel okay. You feel good. Some people, this skill might take some time to develop. Being a nervous wreck before an interview is common. Right? You also want to listen to the questions being asked. Don't say, tell us about your strengths and weaknesses. And they say, yes, I have 560 subjects. In school, I was really good at math. I also excelled in the sciences as well. That's not the question that was asked. Right? So listen to the questions that are being asked and answer concisely. Don't say, oh, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Well, you know, I could remember as far back as when I was a young boy, my parents always told me that I was very vocal, you know. I think it had something to do with my mom being a singer and my dad also liking music. And, you know, I think that love for, you know, audio, like, you realize that you're just going off on a tangent there. That's not the question that was asked. Tell us about your strengths. So be concise, listen to the question, and use humor sparingly. Like here, I could joke because I want you to, you know, follow me on this journey, you know, so I'm using humor as much as I can so that I keep your attention. But in an interview, unless you literally are interviewing to be a comedian, You don't want to walk in there and be like, hey, how's it going? Oh, you got on those. Oh, those are some nice kicks. Like, where'd you get those? Like, bro, I remember sometime, I had some kicks like that. Fire kicks, fam. You don't want to be like that in the interview. They'd be like, what is wrong with this person? That's definitely not going to go down well. I can't see that conversation playing out well if you're being interviewed for entry-level admin position, let's say in a bank or insurance company or something. So, you could crack a joke here or there when the context is right, but don't go off of the cuff just trying to make them laugh, right? But, where you can get a joke or two in, use it sparingly just to show them that you are human and that you can laugh and you know how to laugh, especially if it's something in customer service. You want to show that you're able to disarm people, but at the same time, keep it professional, right? And you also want to give detailed examples where necessary. Yes, no jokes about my very pretty water bottle though, just putting that out there. Right? Give detailed examples where necessary. I think I remember from the previous presenter, she was giving an example about how you were able to make a certain amount of money in sales or something like that. Things like that, you definitely want to sell, right? You definitely want to put your best foot forward. Like if you did something and it was the first time it was ever done in your family, in your community, in your church, whatever the case is, whatever the context is, you want to definitely sell it, so that they know that, hey, I know that what I did was something amazing. And I want you to know that what I did was also something amazing, because I have that context now in my back pocket that will go with me everywhere that I go, right? All right, so interview day, going on to the next. Right, so this slide, I had a little bit of a fun putting together in terms of hacking and I'm sorry if this looks like something that it's not supposed to look like, hacking the frequently asked questions. Tell us about yourself. What does that mean? What that really is, any HR person would tell you, that's really an invitation to sell yourself, right? So be prepared to answer this question. And you have different types of persons who interview people in terms of HR. For some people, it might be the thing that they do on a daily basis, or they are the person in their organization that is responsible for it. For other people, it's like, hey, the other persons aren't here who normally do the interviews. Do this interview. Here's a list of questions. So they get stuck with interviewing you. They don't want to do it, right? But they have to do it because it has to get done. So you get an interviewer who is not enthused, who's just going to run through the list of questions and probably just, tick the answers that they thought, were good or not. So, but you may or may not know, right? So if I put you on the spot and I tell you, tell me about yourself. Is anyone here prepared to answer this question right now? I know you came probably to hear people talk, but is there anyone here prepared to answer this question? They have an answer that they think is 50 to 100% good for this question anytime they're asked. Going out to the audience, anybody, somebody. If I have to, I will call on Shelly, because I know Shelly. All right, well, Shelly, you answered. So you're up, Shelly. Tell us about yourself, Shelly. Imagine you're on an interview and the person doesn't want to really do the interview. They have to do it. And they, you've gotten to the stage where they say, all right, you've gone through the pleasantries, and they say, all right, let's get the interview started. Tell us about yourself,
Okay then, good afternoon. So, all right, let me start again, because I really feel like I'm on an interview. So I'm a young, ambitious individual who is focused on achieving goals and working along with my team members in achieving goals. And I love helping people, and I'm very detail oriented. And I'm here to really bring my expertise to this business so that we can take it further.
Nice. Thank you, Shelly. And while you're at it, just tell me, what are your strengths, Shelly? You know, what do you think, you know, you're good at?
Okay, I'm very good at team playing and motivating my team members to achieving goals.
All right, good stuff. And tell me about a time when you were able to motivate your team to achieve a particularly hard goal.
All right, I'll have to think.
Yeah, take your time. It's all good.
Whew, this is a hard one. All right. So there was, this is so hard to answer. All right, so I remembered and about 2 years ago, I was assigned to a task I can't answer, I'm so nervous.
It's okay, it's okay. We
Yes,
got you.
I was assigned to a task with a team of 5 people, and it required us working beyond our regular schedule. But when I brought to them the end goal and what the results will be, they were allowing the team members to make decision and have an input in everything that we do. I was able to motivate them and getting them to work beyond the working hours, and as such, we were able to achieve our goal within time.
A round of applause for Shelley. All right, and I'm not gonna say it's that simple, but you do realize that it took her the first question she knocked out of the park. She wasn't prepared for the second one. But given time, her brain went from, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, to all right. And then it came down to like, this is my answer, right? So thank you, Shelley, appreciate that. What if you take nothing else from this, is that once you have the basics down packed, the questions that most interviewers always ask, tell us about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your goals? What are your ambitions? Et cetera, et cetera. Once you have the answers to those questions and you know them like the back of your hand, you'll be good, right? Because no matter what position you're faced in, if it's on a Zoom call like this, like Shelley, again, thank you, Shelley, you know, you will have an answer. The answer is not going to be the same each time, because, you know, you're going to change words, you're going to give more context. But once you have a base, right, it's like making a macaroni pie. If you make a roux, once you have your roux, then you know your cream sauce is going to be a hit because you have your base, right? I'm just going to look at, say, but all your answers should be to show how you can be of benefit to the organization, you being an asset. Again, I'm just going to put a plug in here. Next time around, there's a session like this. We need to have Shelley making a presentation. I think it's time. Third time's a charm. So Shelley's going to do some sort of presentation. I'm committing it. I'm speaking it into being, and I'm committing her to doing it. All right. All right. So what are your strengths? Again, this is another opportunity to sell yourself. I was always been, all right. Renee says she was so thrown off. It sounds like Renee wants to go. Does it sound like you want to? Oh, I recently went to an interview where none of these questions were answered. None. Okay, you mean do you mean none of these questions were asked? All right. So Renee, we're going to ask you to join us so that you could give us some context, because I want to know what kind of questions were asked.
Well, I had prepared really great answers for the whole tell us about yourself and, you know, what do you think you can bring to this organization? Why do you think we should hire you above all the other applicants? You know, the standard list of questions. The first question in the interview was, can you please walk us through your resume and show us how your work experience makes you fit for this job? That was the first question. There was no easing it in. Right? And then there was another question. You know, well, the usual, have you ever been in a difficult place of work? But they didn't just stop there. They didn't just ask, what did you do? They asked, please indicate how you contributed to the solution finding or conflict resolution of that scenario. And I was just like, okay, that's a little twist off of the standard.
It is.
The standard question, you know, and then they asked, if somebody you have a file that is marked private and confidential, and a colleague calls to ask you about a similar scenario, and where it concerns the file. So, you know, the colleague is asking for information concerning the file, and it is somebody who is senior to you, who could potentially impact upon your appraisal, your next appraisal, how would you handle such a situation? You know, so that was like testing your interpersonal relationships with management, but also your confidentiality and integrity. So I was just like, my gosh, this is intense.
So they brought the heat straight out the gate. They didn't
straight out the gate.
Right. No, I'm going to imagine that this was not an entry-level position that you were interviewing for, Renee?
No, it wasn't. Middle management.
Okay, and that was going to be my next guess, that you have some work experience under your belt, and this is now would propel you probably to a next level in terms of your career path.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So thank you, Renee. I appreciate that. So these regular questions, you would not see these questions if you're applying for a job as a CEO, CFO, internal auditor, an accountant, right? These are more fit for entry-level positions that require, you know, maybe the basics in terms of academic qualifications, work experience. The higher up the chain you go, the harder it gets. Right. And sometimes you can't game the system because the people behind the curtain, if you want to call it that, they know what they're looking for. They already know, and their job is to try to weed out, I don't want to say the weakest links, but their job is to really separate the haves from the have-nots. Like, these people have what we're looking for, these people don't. Right. And it's our job to weed out the haves from the have-nots. Right. So moving on to the next slide, again, in terms of just trying to, so Renee was prepared to hack what she thought would have been like, oh, this is soft. You know, they're going to ask me the basic questions, strengths, weaknesses. I got it. I could take it from there. All right. What are your weaknesses? Again, this is another opportunity to sell yourself because you don't want to go in there saying, you know, I'm really not a team player. I don't get along well with people. No, you do not want to say that unless you really want that truth to be known, that you want to be stuck in a cubicle by yourself for 8 hours. Then sure. But if it's going to be a team environment that you're going to become a part of, you know, you really want to, you know, craft an answer that speaks to something other than that, right? I think someone has their mic open, just letting you know, right? So it's another opportunity to sell yourself. If you've never been a numbers person, I haven't, right? I don't do accounting. But, you know, if you had to give an answer, you could say, you know, I've never been one for numbers and accounting. So at my last job, I asked to shadow the accounts clerk and was able to learn the basics of QuickBooks. Now I'm pursuing a course on how to, you know, that would make me more marketable. That's taking a weakness and showing how you're making it a strength, right? And that's the kind of answer you want to give for a question like this. Yes, you might not be a numbers person. Yes, you might not be into marketing. Yes, you might not know social media. But if you show that I know that this is a deficit for me as a person in the workplace, this is how I have been moving towards plugging that gap, right? Again, for the same question is, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, no one knows where they're going to be in 5 years, especially in a situation like we're in now with this, you know, global situation. But you can say, I can't say exactly where I will be, but I can say that wherever it is, organization-wise, that I will be bringing value to the team that I am on, as well as learning as much as I can. You could take any of this from what I've put out here today, make it your own, make it into your own words. That's fine. I've already sent the PowerPoint to Larissa. She could send it to you. You could tweak it, whatever. This could be your answer. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? But you always want to have a base from which to start. All right, moving on to our next slide. Right. Do you have, you know, another question that they normally ask, you know, do you have plans to further education, to migrate? You know, I've always seen life as one big classroom, and though I don't have any concrete plans for now or to, you know, to leave or to study, you know, I remain open to continue my personal growth and development when the time is right. Again, it's saying that, hey, I can't say that I'm going to, you know, leave and go to live in London or Paris or Japan or whatever, or I want to go and do a master's next year. But hey, if the opportunity presents itself and the time is right, sure, I'm your guy, right? And another question that I'm guessing they might have asked Renee, It's like, why did you leave your last job? Or why do you want to leave your current job if they know that you're currently employed? Was it because of COVID? Have you been made redundant? Have you been retrenched? Were you on a job program and it ended? Were you fired? If so, what was the reason? Was it a part-time availability while you're working your way through school? Are you exploring new possibilities, wanting to switch to another career? Was it not a right fit culturally? You don't have to throw your employer your current employer under the bus, or show people their dirt. But if it really wasn't a right fit culturally, like how can you explain that in a way that keeps you looking good and keeps your employer looking good, knowing that one day you will be telling the same thing about your past employer, about your current employer, if you get the job your interviewer is interviewing you for, right? The compensation package did not align with the required hours. What that simply means in layman's terms is I was working 10, 12 hours a day, and I really wasn't seeing the benefit in terms of what I was getting paid. The compensation package just, it didn't align with the required hours, or, there were some things about the job that, I really would not wish to discuss, openly in terms of alignment with what I was looking for as a professional. So you give an answer, but you leave it up to the interviewer to kind of, connect the dots in terms of what you're saying. All right, moving on again to our next slide. And I agree with Shelley. You don't want to be, bad talking your current boss or a past boss, because in the Caribbean, we live in a very small world. You never know who knows somebody. All right. Again, to the question, how do you deal with difficult people? I give everyone a fair chance. You get a first couple of opportunities to show me who you are as a person. And then if I realize, there are certain things that I need to be a bit more guarded about, then, I try to work within the confines of what we have to do and keep it professional and then keep it moving. All right, Renee has raised her hands. Renee, make a note of that question. We will come to you first. And then how do you operate in a fast-paced environment if you don't have any previous work industry? All right, I put an answer here that I think, would kind of resonate with a lot of people here in the audience. In VBS, field trips, we had to be very vigilant to ensure we maintain the safety of all the children. We put in place a buddy system. We did half-hourly head counts. We made sure that we kept an eye on everything, right? Again, this is a fast-paced environment. You might think that you being at VBS with 30 kids was just you being at VBS with 30 kids. Those are 30 different ways your day could go wrong if one of these children, got injured or something. That's a fast-paced, high-strung environment. You constantly have to be making sure people are not putting things up their nose, swallowing things that they're not supposed to be swallowing, putting things in their ear. You have to be on top of them. That's a skill that transfers very well to the workplace, right? Maybe not all workplaces, but that's something that can definitely transfer well to the workplace. Karina can attest. She could run a master class in VBS management. Her and Donna Marie can run a master class in VBS management, coming to you in summer of 2022, hosted by the Tacuma district. All right, moving right along. I know that time is of the essence. So you have behavioral and situational interviews. If they ask you, what do you do if you work in a situation where a co-worker confesses to you that they stole something? I pitched a scenario when I teach HR at the local college that, you're working at a bank and a co-worker confesses to you that they stole some money, but they're going to pay it back. What do? You can comment in the chat and let me know. What do you do in a situation like that? And this is just not a regular co-worker. This is your bona fide co-worker, sister, brother, brethren, friend, right? Like when they come to work on Mondays, they're bringing you some leftovers from what they cooked on Sunday. Or, they're inviting you to things at their church. They bring you treats when they go out on the street, to buy snacks and that kind of thing. This is somebody that, you would be sad if they were no longer working with you. this person confesses to you like, hey, I stole some money, it's all good, I'm going to pay it back. Soft, right? How do you answer those types of questions, right? Again, you as a person have to be answering the question to what answer you think would really represent you as an individual, and at the same time help you keep a clear conscience if you are placed in that actual situation, right? And a question that I'm throwing out there, in a situation where you are scheduled for a day that you do not want to work, what would you do? I will tell them I need to tell management, or they have to tell management. So Shelley is keeping it by the book, telling them they know what is wrong and that I can let them do that. Either they put it back or, all right. So I know Trinidad is the Caribbean country that has the most holidays in the world, right? And I envy you all for it. But in a situation on a day where you don't want to work, what do? Do you tell the supervisor like, hey, I'm not feeling it tomorrow, I'm just gonna take the day, right? Do you tell them that, or do you do nothing? Do you call in sick on that day? Do you not report for work on that day? Do you ask for a switch with a coworker? These are kind of situations that would get the person asking you the question to figure out what type of person are we hiring if we hire this person, all right? And in terms of what Renee said, her experience, she was placed in a lot of, I think her situation, they had a lot of behavioral and situational questions that they put to her, and they kept drilling down as to, okay, you answered this first part, but what did you do? And what was the result of what you did? What would you have done differently? What do you think the company should have done differently? So they're trying to get like a 360 approach now, as this is you as the person telling us what you did, but these are all the other thoughts that were happening in your head. And these are all the things that you now, looking back, you could give some insight and context to, right? Because it's not just about answering the question, it's showing us like, what do you think about the situation? Do you think it's okay for your coworker to take money, put it back, and nobody says anything about it, right? All right, next slide. I only have 14. I don't know how many have gone. All right. Right, and this is a simple one. Your boss hands you a letter to read and respond to a customer complaint. At the same time, your supervisor asks you to go to the storeroom to take inventory. What do? Which one do you do first? All right, like, do you go do the inventory and figure, hey, the customer complaint can wait? Or do you handle the customer complaint first and figure, hey, the inventory can wait? What we don't know here is how serious is the customer complaint? Or is it the end of the month and stock taking needs to get done today? We don't have any context. So you as the person answering the question, you as a person answering the question, you kind of get to put context to it, or to ask the person who's asking you the question a little bit more of a detail to see where they want to go with the question. Not to say you could do that for every question, to switch up on them like, hey, what is happening in this scenario? I know you asked me the question, but just for a bit more of a context, like what is in the scenario that you pitched, what is happening? Is it the end of the month? Is it stock taking? Is the customer complaint from a friend of the boss? Is it the boss's family member and they don't want to handle it? They want somebody else to handle it. That kind of context would be good to know. You could possibly ask the interviewer. It might be risque to kind of put them on the spot. But if you're confident enough that, hey, I want more information to answer this question, by all means, put them on the spot, ask them the question, because it shows them that you're not afraid to ask questions and to get more clarity to fix a problem, which might be a strength based on what you're interviewing for. All right, next up. Right, how many more slides are there after this, Larissa? Is this the last one?
Yeah, I think this is either the last or the second to last.
Okay, and yeah, so these are just some questions that you can prepare in terms of going into the interview. What does the ideal candidate look like for this role? So you get the interviewer to describe who the best person is for the role that they're hiring for. You may or may not tick all the boxes that they're looking for. And I think somebody mentioned it earlier, you know, what has led to there being a vacancy? Again, there's a typo here because, you know, I didn't rush it, but I kind of rushed it. All right. What has led to there being a vacancy? How would you define the culture of this organization? Which is an important question to ask. What would current employees say is the best thing about working here? And the pay question comes at number 5. You don't want to ask about the money up front. When they ask, do you have any questions? Unless they have answered all your questions except giving an idea as to what the pay package is, and you don't know, you don't just want to say, hey, so what kind of money are we talking here? You know, you want to make it seem like an educated question, like, you know, can you give me an idea of what the remuneration package for the position in question is in terms of, you know, base salary and other benefits, right? So, you know, that's a question right there, you know, so they know like, oh yeah, sorry, we didn't mention that, but we start you off at $12 an hour. After probation, you move to 15. And within 6 months to a year, depending on your performance, you could move to $20 an hour. In terms of other benefits, there's health insurance. There's also a stipend for traveling. There's also a stipend for communication, all right, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other question is, how soon are you expecting to have the role filled? And then the final question, you know, that you want to ask, what are the next steps after today? You really want to know, where do we go from here? When will I know if I am being shortlisted for a next interview, or I am being asked to submit more information? You know, what are the next steps after today? When will I know what information, where we go from here? Right, that's an important question to know. All right, and I think that's my time in a nutshell. I think there might be one more slide. Drum roll if there is. No, that's it. All right, so Renee had a question. We're just gonna go straight into Renee. I saw there was a raised hand. Yeah,
right.
Shoot.
I had question and comments. I recall there was one interview that I went to, and they had asked about why you left your last position, and I indicated to them that the environment did not provide, you know, the room for professional growth and personal development. The reality is that my boss was just toxic, and she was just making everything very difficult. And I was just like, okay, this is not making any sense. Let's find another environment. Of course, you can't say that. When I gave that response, they asked, so what happened? And it almost came across as though they were digging to find out, well, what happened? You know, what does that even mean? And I think I just wanted to highlight, that was my comment, that those are some of the red flags as well, because you asked, do you want the job? That's what you consider even before accepting the invitation to the interview. But sometimes it may be in the interview, something happens that makes you recognize this is not the organization for me. There was another time when, in your last question, when I turned and I asked, I like to ask as a follow-up question, can you please indicate who exactly would be my immediate supervisor? Because usually the person may be on the interviewing panel. And when they indicated who it was, I turned and I asked the person, can you please share for me what makes you come to work on a difficult day? And she started to fumble. And I was like, this is not the job for me. Because if
Renee, you are a star.
No, if this is your job and you had to fumble because you can't say what about the workplace makes you want to come to work, that's a red flag to me. Then you're going to pass on your misery to me as the person who is reporting to you, right? So I just wanted to highlight that was my comment. My question.
Yes, go ahead.
2 questions are more and more you're seeing video interviews becoming a thing, not Zoom. Video interviews as in they send you a link, they have the question written, and you have to record yourself giving the response. And you have a time, 1.5 minutes to give your response, and then it moves on to the next question. You have a minute and a half to give your response, and that's how, video interviews. So I just wanted some tips on how to prepare for that, as well as more and more employers are using psychometric examinations after the initial interview as a follow-up interview. So some tips on preparing for that as well.
Yeah, so I heard the question asked about video interviews before. I didn't realize, now that you've given the context, what we were talking about. I haven't done one. I can see them being a thing. I personally have never done one, but I would say practice. Again, we have cell phones that, can help us with a lot of these things. You set a timer, and if it's a minute and a half, that's 90 seconds. You have 90 seconds to answer the question in terms of, your strengths, your weaknesses, et cetera, and you can practice even going on the internet, Google, and Googling questions, interview questions, situational interview questions, behavioral interview questions. You could find a lot of content on all of these topic areas, and you pick maybe like 10 to 15 that you figure might be asked, and you practice in front of your computer, you record it, you play it back, you say, okay, you make notes as to, okay, this is how I'm going to answer this question. And if it is a case where you know that it's going to be an interview, have maybe some notes somewhere that you can glance to that's not too obvious, that you're looking down and reading, okay, this is the question, all right, where is that on my list? You don't want to be that obvious, but have something maybe even somewhere that you can glance to, just as to some bullet points, and practice the timing so that you can get it done. And that was the video question. Your other question,
the psychometric test.
Psychometric. Be honest, right? Because the psychometric test is there to weed people out. You can, over time, probably figure out all the questions and figure out the answers to them, right? And to look for what they're looking for, because they're looking for, there's a Myers-Briggs indicator, and it measures, I think, the big 5 personality types. Agreeableness is one of them. I don't remember the others off the top of my head, but you could research this information and figure out what the answers is. And I don't want to say cheat the system or hack the system, but you could research the information. But I would say to thine own self be true. If they ask you a situational question and you figure, hey, this is what I would really do, I mean, you might be shooting yourself in the foot, or you might want to, the reality is I can't tell you how to answer the question. Let your conscience be your guide. If you think, hey, I want to give the best possible answer because I really want this job, I think I would be a really good fit, or I just want to answer the question to the point where I know this is truly who I am on the inside, and this is how I would react. Where the chips fall, they fall. If it's meant to be, it will be. Then, I think those are your two options. I don't want to say try to game the system and, do your research and answer the questions as best as you think you can based on research that you've done, or answer true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you're placed in the situation, you don't want it to be a situation you say, oh yeah, you said in your interview, you're down to work overtime. You're here for the cause. And now it's Wednesday, we're asking you to put in 3 hours. You're like, nah, I'm trying to go home. I'm not trying to stay past 4:30. I'm trying to ride out. I'm good. Pay me for the 8 hours and I'm gone. See y'all tomorrow. It's not gonna happen. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, again, I'm recruiting Renee for the next Zoom session that Tacuma is hosting. So Larissa, you already have your next 2 presenters up, which is Shelley and Renee. I don't know what they're going to be talking about, but I know that they do have quite a bit of information that they can share with the audience. All right, 2 minutes to, yes, go ahead.
Mr. Maile, we're out of time, unfortunately. Yes. Went a little over time, but it's understandable because we had a little bit at the beginning. But I really want to thank you. You gave us so much in your session. If I have to summarize, I might take another 10 minutes. I'm not going to do that. And luckily for us, you kept it very interactive throughout. So there was constant feedback from the chat, and we were able to stay with you throughout the entire presentation. So again, Mr. Maile, thank you so, so much. And we will be taking you up on that offer once COVID is finished and we can have a look. Okay?
And I just want to say, from primary school, my teachers always said, Shawn would benefit more if he talked less in class. I can't help it.
I think quite a few of us had that same.
All right, so it was great. I had fun. Larissa has my contact information. If anybody wants to reach out, ask any questions or anything, she knows where to find me. All right, have a blessed day, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again. All right, we got some new people joining us since our last presentation. I want to say a special thank you to all our participants who have been giving great feedback and keeping it interesting by being willing to ask questions and to participate. Okay, our next presenter is already here, and because of time, I want to move on quickly. So I am going to introduce. I would like to turn you over now to Justin Matthew. I am aware that we're a little over time here, and people have lots of things to do in preparation for the new week. So I'm not going to say too much more, except to thank everyone, our participants, for being interactive with our guest speakers and for making this session very, very successful. So over to Justin Matthew, and then Larissa, if you have any final comments, you can give them. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Is everyone hearing me? I believe so. Yes, thumbs up.
Yes, we're hearing.
All right, lovely. So, as was mentioned before, I just want to chime in with that it was a successful program, and I do hope that persons would have picked up the gems that would have been shared freely to you, and that you tap into that as you engage the world of work. Just be mindful that we have forms that you can sign, that you can go through. I think Larissa would have put it in the chat, just to give a feedback of the program, what ways we can improve or better, or some things that may be of interest to you, so we can plan within our district. Also, this program is also recorded, so in case you want to go over anything that would have been said previously, you can do so. A link will be shared as well too on our YouTube channel. All right, and if it was beneficial to you, I don't think you should keep it to yourselves. You should share with family members, friends, co-workers, colleagues. You fill in the blanks, right? So that they too can receive a blessing. All right. So we just say a quick word of prayer to end this afternoon session. Let's all pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for life, health, and strength. We also thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to work where you have given us able bodies to do so, Lord. Lord, but I also pray that even as we prepare for the world of work, I pray that we would be prepared for heaven. And that's the ultimate goal, Lord. So in all that we do, let's keep in mind that your return is imminent, and that one day you would come and take us all home to live with you forever and ever. Jesus' precious and wonderful name. Oh, thank you, Lord, for all the presenters as well that would have taken their time and their talents to share this aspect. All right. And I also thank you for the organizers as well, using them in a mighty way to have this up and running. This is my humble prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Larissa, over to you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Justin. That's our district leader. We just want to thank all of the presenters again. This is probably the third time or more that we're saying it, but we really appreciate them taking the time to come and share with us today. I want to thank personally our host, Mrs. Karina Leslie. She did such an excellent job keeping us engaged, communicating between us and the presenters and such. Thank you so much again, Karina. And we definitely want to thank you guys, the participants. It would not have been possible without you guys here to receive any of this information. And we really do hope that you guys found it beneficial and you would be able to take what you learned and utilize it in the best way that you can. We pray and hope for your success as you go into or continue your endeavors and your efforts in the job market. And we hope that you would continue to support other programs and events from the Tacuma district and also from the Youth Training and Employment Office. So on behalf of Cadiz James and myself from the Youth Training and Employment Office, we thank everyone and we hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon. Bye everybody.